Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Big Idea Podcast. My name is Eric Bramlett. I am joined by Tammy Melchien. Tammy, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good. Thank you.
Very good, very good. All right, we are both. I mean, quite frankly, we're recovering from colds. You know, we're getting through it, but you know, we still want to make sure that those of you who are brainstorming content for the series starting in January have everything you need. So we're willing to push through.
You may just want to keep your hand on the mute button in case we have a coughing attack or something.
Right, yeah, the phlegm may come through. You may want to disinfect the keyboard after you view. But we are talking about the series that kicks off 2016, and it is called Circles. And I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be a really great kind of back to the basics kind of moment for our church. So, Tammy, tell us a little bit about Circles. You know, I mean, why Circles? And what is it that this hook is meaning to, you know, kind of inspire in us?
Well, it really is going to be a 4-week series that is all about small groups. It's going to give us a great time right at the beginning of the year to get as many people connected in groups as possible. And I think, you know, obviously that's one of our goals anyway. Yeah. But I think some things specific to this year is also as we're preparing for the One Initiative. Yes. I think if people are in a small group as we journey through that together, they're going to have a place to discuss it, to talk about their feelings as they go through it, and all of that stuff. And so it'd be so awesome if we could get as many people as possible grouped. But a second reason is one of our key objectives as a church this year is to increase our small groups by 50%. And that's both, you know, that's all adults, students, and kids. And so, you know, one of the weeks in this, we're really going to be making a big apprenticeship plug. So I think in a lot of ways, it's very timely for us to do this at the beginning of the year. Very good,
very good. So then, so tell me about then, and maybe this gets right into week one, but talk a little bit then about Circles. Why Circles as it relates to small groups, and what are the pros and cons of thinking in terms of circles?
Okay. Well, we came up with the title based on an Andy Stanley-ism that you may have heard before, where he talks about how circles are better than rows. And, you know, the idea being he's talking about small groups ultimately are better than just coming and sitting in the rows of a church. Now, we'll make a little fun of that in the beginning, as he does, saying, you know, don't get us wrong, we love rows. You know, a lot of us make our living speaking to rows. We collect the offering in rows. Right, yeah. So we do like rows.
It's tough to collect the offering in a circle because then it just never gets out of the...
Yes, that's true. It's like good. Vortex. Yeah. But, you know, circles are, and I think we know this, we talk about this often, circles are where real life change can happen, where real relationships happen, where community really happens. And so that's where the title of it came from. And so each week, in the titles each week, is a little play on the use of circles.
And so then that first week is actually that catchphrase, circles are better than rows. And we're talking about really kind of the basics of what we do as a church, right? Going into the 3 C's and into, you know, what God's idea for the church was, going all the way back to the book of Acts. So tell us just a little bit about what we're going to focus in on that week one.
Sure. Well, the let me say this first. The first 2 weeks are actually really a 2-punch get connected.
Gotcha.
You know, a 2-week thing of get connected, but they're going to come at it from 2 different angles. So week 1, in some ways you might say, is coming at it from the positive benefit angle, to say, you know, here are the types of things that happen in circles that can't happen in rows. And so, you know, we're going to look at the Acts 2 passage and the things that we see there, but also a lot of the one another scriptures of encourage one another, challenge, pray for one another, you know, those type of things. And so in week 1, we'll be talking about how we're really wired for community. We're wired for the connection. And there are things that we need as human beings that we will only find in being connected in a circle. So, you know, the approach in week 1 is to, I guess, encourage people with, here's all the benefits of being in a circle.
That's good. And so would you say, I mean, for these first 2 weeks, very important to have some takeaways at your campus about getting involved in a small group?
Absolutely.
New small groups opening up, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And we have let small group directors know and campus pastors know that this series is coming. So hopefully they're beginning to brainstorm on all of that.
Excellent. And I mean, I'd say too, especially with that week one, we will have just had kind of that New Year's resolution, feel, post Christmas. And it's a great opportunity, great time for early action and really getting people to sign up, seal the deal, make some kind of, demonstrative push, yes, I'm going to do that. Here's my information.
Yeah.
I'll be there on that Tuesday night, that Wednesday night, whatever.
Yeah. And I believe that a number of our campuses made the decision to go with a kind of two-part way of getting newer people engaged, and that many of them this past fall or currently are having the Finding Your Way Back to God small group. And I think a lot of campuses are thinking about doing Alpha at the beginning of the year. So in addition to our community groups and things like that, may be something to point people to.
Very good, very good. All right, well then let's move on to week 2 then. You talked about the 1-2 punch here of week 1 and 2. So if week 1 is kind of this positive, here are the attributes, here's what's great about it. What is the shift then in week 2?
Well, week 2, the title of it is called Preventative Circles, and we really are stealing a ton from Andy Stanley for this one because he did a message that was so good on this.
He's a really smart guy.
He is, and the idea here is, to catch people in a lot of the excuses that they have of, they're too busy, well, my kids are young, all these kind of things of why we don't get in a group.
Yeah.
But to realize, there is going to come a time in your life when you are going to need a circle. And if you don't make the investment in a circle now, it's not going to be there for you when you need it. There's an analogy of, small groups, group life is like a retirement account. If you don't invest in it now, it won't be there when you really need it. And to help people to understand that as well, that we're going to look at the passage from Ecclesiastes when Solomon says, 2 are better than 1 if one falls down. His brother can help him up. And, in essence, just honestly asking the question, if you fell down, is there anyone outside of your immediate family that would be there to help you up? And so hopefully we're going to give people a challenge to maybe think beyond the busyness and the excuses they're making right now to realize this is an investment that they need to make.
Yeah. And you use the word preventative. It's the idea that this is preventative medicine for when those times come. And I know we've all had those experiences in small group. I mean, I think, small group crisis is one of the, it's inevitable. You're going to have crisis within your small group. It's just how life works. And when you are in those moments, I mean, they become some of the more finer bonding moments of a small group when the group can really rally around someone or a couple or a family. Those are the moments that really, stick out and really kind of help gel that group.
Yeah.
But if you're not a part of it, you may not even really be able to see the potential for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a few other things to consider in this. One is, we all can see things coming in somebody else's life that they can't see.
Right.
And so some of this challenge will be too is, it's preventative in the sense of if you are connected to people that love you and care about you, they're going to maybe help you avoid some of the mistakes that are down the road for you. That if you don't have that circle, you're going to walk right into it. Oh. And then a second thing I'll mention in this message is we really want to also include an angle in this that is about students and kids. And we're going to be casting vision to parents of the importance of having their kids in a circle, understanding that while they're in a row, their kids in Kid City are in a circle. And, one of the things to think of is a lot of times it's not until, the teen is 15, 16, 17, and some problems are starting to arise, and then people run to the church and say, hey, I really need to get my kid in Stuco. Well, that's great, and we're going to do whatever we can to try to, but it would have been way better if that kid was in a circle when he was 2. When he was 3, when he was,
Absolutely. Well, and also, the timeliness of this, obviously when you're talking about Kid City, you're talking about regular church attendance. noting, how important it is to link your service attendance to a particular service,
particular
so that
small group.
Kid City person, that leader can be consistent for your kid as they're experiencing community in that way. But then, this is 1 week before Blast, and Blast is this incredible opportunity for people to catch the vision of what Stuco is. But really, Blast exists to get kids into small groups
circles.
Afterwards. Yeah. And so, even to be able to cast a vision forward, you probably have already signed up your kid for Blast. They're going to Blast next weekend. What does it look like for your family to be a place that's pro, getting other things out of the way so that Stuco small groups can be a place for your kids?
Yeah, and the trying to have people have a long-term view of thinking of what in the idea of it being preventative, what might be avoided in those kids' lives if all the while they're growing up, they have another caring adult and a circle of their peers that they're walking through life with, and it's just that critical. So I think it's going to be a strong week for us, and
that's good. That's very good.
Maybe we'll just put an Andy Stanley video on and be done with it.
Well, he's really good. Maybe we can get John to imitate Andy Stanley. They look similar enough that I think John Ferguson could give it a shot. Let's talk about week 3. Week 3, we're talking about expanding circles.
Okay.
So we had the 1-2 punch. And now we're kind of moving off into slightly different territory. So where are we headed with these circles?
Yeah, where the first 2 weeks are really you looking at yourself and getting connected. The second 2 weeks, I think, are more outward focused. And so expanding circles is going to be how are we using circles, using small groups to help people find their way back to God? How are we always creating space and inviting more people into the circle? And one of the things we were just talking about is that so many times we think we need to wait until someone is a Christ follower to invite them into a small group, but it may be the small group that is the vehicle by which they come to find their way back to God. Yeah. And so this week is going to be a week where we're really challenging people to think about who they need to be inviting into the circle. We're most likely going to revisit the bless practices as a part of that.
Begin with prayer, listen, eat, serve, share your story.
Absolutely.
Love it.
And the text that we picked for this week is the text from Acts about Peter and Cornelius. And if you're not super familiar, Peter, a Jew, has this kind of direct revelation from God that he is to go to the house of Cornelius, a Gentile. And this was the first recorded evidence of a Gentile person finding their way back to God and accepting Jesus. And we intentionally chose this text also because it has that restore angle to it of reaching across to someone that is different than you, because this does fall on Martin Luther King weekend.
Oh, gotcha.
And so we want to have a bent to this that is also looking at that.
Oh, nice. Well, very good. I think and then trying to illuminate or make clear the difference between what we have going on here in week 3 and then maybe what's coming up in week 4. Would you say that restore angle is like kind of the biggest marker of shift between week 3 and week 4? Or do they kind of hold their own, as far as differences go?
Yeah, I think. I think week 3, we want to get people thinking about who do they need to bring in, who do they need to bring in.
Gotcha.
Week 4, we're going to tackle probably what sometimes is the biggest challenge in small groups, and that is getting people that are in the groups to own the importance of reproducing their group. Gotcha.
So it's sort of like it's almost like a baton pass. Where it's like once we've brought people into the group.
And our group is expanding.
Group is expanding. What does it look like to reproduce it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I didn't want to get too far ahead into week 4, but since you were talking about week 1 and 2 are kind of a pair, week 3 and 4, I just want to make sure we understood, like if all you experienced was week 3, you'd walk away knowing, okay, I need to bless the world, and I need to allow my circle to expand to include some people that might be different than me, but also really focusing on people who are potentially far from God.
Yes.
All right, well, now let's go ahead and move into week 4. Again, concluding the series. And once we've expanded these circles, then we want to reproduce them.
Mm-hmm.
So where are we headed exactly with this?
Well, some of what I was just saying, hopefully we will cast a vision for that and chip away at some of the resistances that sometimes people have for that, because we need people to have a vision for the importance of reproducing in the overall mission of helping people find their way back to God.
Yeah.
And so we're going to try to cast that with this. But we also then specifically want to zero in on, the part of that involves reproducing apprentices, reproducing leaders. Mm-hmm. And so one of the big takeaways from this week is going to be a challenge. And I think we're going to challenge every person that, either you need to consider being the apprentice in your group, becoming that apprentice, or if that's not what you're going to do, you need to be supportive of the people that are going to lead the production of your group. And so it's, in some ways it's a little bit of a get on board
Sure,
message.
Yeah.
So focus on that. But as part of this message as well, on reproducing, because this is all church baptism week, we also want to focus on just reproducing Christ followers within this message, and how that can happen in a small group.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, that's really strong, and I think especially as we're looking forward to the One Initiative, I mean, it is a difficult thing to do, to birth a small group, to have one group of people who become two groups of people. But it's definitely something that requires you got to stop thinking in terms of selfish or what you would prefer, but you're really, it is kind of a generous act in a way.
It is, yeah.
That I think paves the way nicely for the kinds of ways we're going to stretch our thinking and hopefully change our hearts as we look forward to the One Initiative. Yeah,
and that's why I say in the series, I think weeks 1 and 2 are kind of what the small group, what the circle does for you, and weeks 3 or 4 is who you as the circle need to be for others.
Oh, that's great. That's good stuff. All right. Well, it's a lot to pack into January, but I think we can do it.
Be good.
All right. Very good. Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope this has been helpful for you as you are brainstorming either large group content or small group discussion guide content. We want to make sure that this is helpful and that you're using these items in this conversation to brainstorm and create moments that are going to inspire and encourage our attenders to make changes and to step forward and to step into some of these new places that for many of them, even though we talk about this stuff all the time, let's just keep in mind that for many, many people, this is the first time that they've ever heard it. That this is the first time, maybe they've heard it for a couple of years, but because of what God is doing to them in their hearts in this moment, it's the first time they've been this receptive to really be able to take that kind of action. And so they're moving into this territory. We want to make sure that we're inspiring them to do so, and that we're really kind of creating this moment that says, this is the first time that we've ever talked about this way. And hopefully that'll be encouraging for you as you brainstorm. And if there's anything you need along the way, don't hesitate to ask. All right, so Tammy, any last words? Or
I guess Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah, welcome to 2016, and let's get to work. Let's get these small groups going. All right, well, this has been Tammy Melchien and Eric Bramlett for the Big Idea Podcast. Thanks so much, and we will see you next time. So long, everybody.